Hello student, this is Tushar and welcome to NCERT Education. Today in this video I am going to continue this chapters which is our first chapters of class 7. So in our earlier classes I have discussed this first part of it. I will try to finish this entire chapters, that means this complete chapter today. But before I begin, I will request all of you, please subscribe our channel and hit the bell icon so that you can get this entire notification from our channels. Okay, and don't forget to share this video with your friends. Okay, so without wasting time, let's start. See, in the previous class I have discussed this cell and that the structure, different organelles of it. If you have not seen, please you can see it in our previous video. Okay, so these things also I have discussed, photosynthesis, and this chemical reactions is also given there. So if you have not seen, please see this all these things. Okay, so today I will start from here. Now what they have about this nutritions in plant. Beside leaves, photosynthesis also take place in other green part of the plants. In green stems, green branches. See, from here there may be a questions. Okay, so without, that means plants leaf, uh, in other part of these plants, photosynthesis can occur. So answer should be green stem and green branches. Okay, sometimes you can see uh, different green branches of a tree and a stem, like this, pumpkin plant. I am sure you have seen this pumpkin plant. You can see that this green part of it can also make their own food. Okay, so this is another part of this photosynthesis organism for this plant. Okay, so let's see what is written in this next part. All living organisms is produced during this photosynthesis. In the absence of this photosynthesis, life would be impossible on the earth. Okay, so from there it may be another questions. In the absence of dash, life would be impossible on the earth. So answer should be what? Answer should be photosynthesis. Okay, so you can write this question like, in the absence of, okay, so let me erase these things. You can write, in the absence of dash, life would be impossible on earth. So answer should be photosynthesis. Or it may be questions like, in absence of what, life would be impossible on earth. So answer should be photosynthesis. Okay, so I am sure you have understand. Okay, so let's continue discussing. Now, during this photosynthesis, chlorophyll contains cell, leaves, etc. The presence of sunlight, the use, these things I have already discussed. So you can, that means see in our previous video. Here, for making photosynthesis, that means food, plants can take carbon dioxide from air, water from soil, and in the upper part there is sunlight. In the lower part, that means there is chlorophyll present on the green part of these leaves. Okay, all of you know that chlorophyll is present on the green part of the plants. So this helps to make their own food. Okay, so after photosynthesis, what they produce? After photosynthesis they produce, uh, yes, after photosynthesis they produce carbohydrate and oxygen. Okay, so carbohydrate, its chemical, that means symbol is C6H12 and O6. You can write, because sometimes teachers can ask these questions also, what is the chemical name of this carbohydrate. So you can write C6H12 and O6. Okay, and next thing is oxygen, and oxygen chemical name is O2. Okay, so for class 7 standard, these things is very important. Okay, so let's start for this next part. You can write all these questions what I am discussing now. This may help you for making these notes of these inside questions. Here you can see chlorophyll, that means in the it's a leaf, uh, side of this edge of a leaves. So this edge are, that means zoom out here. So here you can see that guard cells are there, that means these two are guard cell which helps to open or close the gap, and this gap is called what? This gap is called stomata. Gap is called what? Stomata. Okay, and it is also called stomata. So this is opening part is called stoma or stomata, and this gap helps to enter carbon dioxide from air to this inner part of the leaf, and after that means photosynthesis, oxygen is produced, and this oxygen is released out from this openings. Okay, so these openings is basically maintained by these two cells which are called the guard cell. Questions can ask from here also, what is the functions of the guard cell, or sometimes it may questions you that what is stomata. Okay, so this is very important questions. Okay, so let's continue next. Yes, here's a wonderful drawing is given there. See, you can practice these drawings in your homes, because this kind of questions is basically asked in different questions. Okay, so you should you know practice these questions. Here is stomatal opening, this gap that I have already discussed, and these two are this what? Guard cell. Okay, there is another principle behind this opening and closing, so I will discuss, or that means try to discuss in our next, that means classes, uh, that means which is should be not be in class 7 or 8 standard, it may be some upper standard also. Okay, so please see and stay with us to see these things. So next part is, yes, from here during the process of oxygen is released, that means during the process oxygen is released, the carbohydrate ultimately get converted into starch. Okay, very important things, questions can come. Carbohydrate is ultimately converted into what? Carbohydrate, and that means is ultimately converted into starch. Okay, so this is another questions you can write, or fill in the blanks can also, that means make from it. Now the presence of starch in leaves indicate this occurrence of photosynthesis. Now this starch is also carbohydrate. Okay, so very important things, starch is also carbohydrate. So these things are very important for you. You can write this question from here. See, I can see there is a complete that means diagram is given there. You should learn these diagrams also. Here is a complete plants is given, that means for showing the photosynthesis mechanism. Here chlorophyll, that means in leaves is drawn there, and this roots part, that means taking waters and minerals from the soil, and sunlight is, that means falls on the upper face of this or upper surface of the leaves. And here in the presence of carbon dioxide from atmosphere and water from the soils and sunlight, uh, this helps to produce their own food. Okay, so this is called as photosynthesis. Okay, to see the next, there is one activity is given there. Okay, so let me read this. Take two plotted plants in this make same kinds, keep in this dark black box for the 72 hours, and others in the sunlight, others in the sunlight. Here perform this iodine test with these leaves in both of these plants as you did in this class 6. Now record your result. Now leaves to the pot which earlier kept in the dark. Now the sunlight for 3 to 4 days and perform the iodine test again on its leaves. Record your observations in your notebook. Okay, so that means it's one kind of iodine test which helps us to see whether starch is present on the leaves or not. Okay, so you have to, that means learn this whole activity, and sometimes questions can ask from here also, how can you prove that starch is present on the plants. So you have to write this iodine test. Okay, now here you often see slimy green patches in these ponds or in these other stagnant water bodies. Okay, so these generally formed by the growth of organisms called this algae. Okay, so it's one kind of questions they can ask. What is algae? Algae, you can define it as the green organisms basically found in the water, which is one kind of microorganisms, or sometimes you can say is one kind of they can photosynthesis, that means take their that means own food. Okay, so this is algae. Now they contain chlorophylls which gives them in green color. So as you know that as there is a chlorophyll, so it can definitely make their own food in presence of sunlight. Now here it's a synthesis of plants food other than this carbohydrate. Okay, so synthesis of plant food other than the carbohydrate. That means other than carbohydrate, how can the plant food is produced? Okay, so you have just learned that the plant synthesize carbohydrate through the process of photosynthesis, that you already learned, because with the help of this photosynthesis carbohydrate or starch is produced. But other than this photosynthesis, is there any mechanism? Let's see. Now the carbohydrate are made of this carbon, hydrogen and oxygen, because I have shown you that the chemical name of this carbohydrate is C6 C6H12 and O6. Okay, so as it is there, I can see it's a carbon is 6 and hydrogen is 12 and oxygen is 6. That means these atoms are present on this one molecules of carbohydrate. So these are used for to synthesize the other components of this food, such as this protein, fat, etc. But proteins are nitrogenous substances which contains nitrogen. From that plants obtain nitrogen. That means as nitrogen is very important, that means for the growth of the plant, so they have to process or synthesize this nitrogen, so they can synthesize it by this also. Okay, this mechanism also. Now recall that nitrogen is present in the abundance of these gaseous forms in the air. However, plants cannot absorb this nitrogen in this form. Why? Because the available nitrogens in this air or atmospheres is not be easily converted into their that means nutrient. So they have to take nitrogens in another way. Some of the plants can take insectivorous plant can take nitrogen by taking or consuming this different insect, and some of them can also take this from soil. Okay, so let's see both of this. Soil has certain bacteria that convert this gaseous nitrogen into a usable form released into this soil. Okay, so very important things. Soil have what to convert this gaseous nitrogen into soil. So some of the bacteria. Okay, so you have to uh, write these questions also, and these are called this nitrosomonas bacteria. You have to write these things. Okay, for example, for example, rhizobium. Okay, say one of the most important example for uh, which helps to convert this gaseous nitrogen into soil. Okay, so very important things. Next part is also you might have seen these farmers adding the fertilizers rich in this nitrogens to soil. Now in this way the plants fulfill their requirements of these nitrogens along with this other constituent. Plants can then synthesize components of the food and other carbohydrates such as this proteins and fat. Okay, so these things is, so next part is other mode of the nutrition in plants. That means what are other mode of nutrition? That means taking this food are there in plant. See, there are some of the plants which do not have chlorophyll. They cannot synthesize their food. Okay, so can I say that is there any plant which have not any chlorophyll? Yes, I can say some of the plants which are not green in color, basically ornamental plants, do not have chlorophyll. Something else which may be chromoplast or leucoplast, etc. organelles, that means are present in these plants for which they have not, that means color this green. Okay, green color. So they have to synthesize their food with other way. Now how do they survive and form? Where do they derive this nutrition? Now, like humans and animals, such plants depends on the food produced by other plants. Okay, that means some of the plants also there which do not make their own food. They have to survive by, that means depending on other plants. Okay, they are called what? They are called heterotrophic mode of nutrition. That means this kind of nutrition is called what? Heterotrophic nutrition. Okay, I have to bold it. This kind of nutrition is called what? This kind of nutrition is called heterotrophic mode of nutrition. Okay, so very important things. And these plants are also called heterotrophs. Okay, see next part. This plants is called this cascata. Okay, honorable. So I'm sure you have seen some of the plants like tube like structure, or which are very thin, and generally they are stay in the other plants and grow this complete, that means upper surface of this plant, and these are called omorbel or cascata, or sometimes in Bengali form they also tell it Swarnalata. So these kind of these plants are called what? This kind of plants is called this parasitic plant, because they cannot make their own food. They take this nutrition from the host plants. That means on the plants which are generally they staying. Okay, so this is one of the best example. Questions can definitely come here. Give an example of parasitic plant, or give an example of heterotrophic mode of nutrition in plants. So you have to give this example in both the cases. Okay, so this is called what? Cascata. This is called what? Cascata or omorbel. Okay, so very important things here. Yes, figure is given there. You can see this kind of this thin rope like structures. They basically stay on the other plants, and they do not, that means make their own food. These are called omorbel or cascata. See, this is climbing. Okay, now the plants on which it climb is called the host. Okay, so question can come, what is host? Host is a plant on which these parasitic plants are basically stay, or omorbel or cascata stay is called the host. Now since it deprive this host of this valuable nutrient, it is called this parasite. I already discussed you what is parasite. That means these are parasites, as they do not make their own food. They can take this food or nutrition from these plants, and these plants is called this parasitic plant. That means on which these are omorbel or cascada livings is called the parasitic plant. Okay, sorry, this omorbel and cascada is called this parasitic plant, and on which they are basically staying is called the host. Have you seen or heard the plants that can eat animals? Yes, I already told you that some of the plants which can take this insect for fill up there, or that means making nitrogen. Okay, so these are called as what? These are called the insectivorous plant. Here it is, picture is given, insectivorous plant. Its name is pitcher plant. Not only pitcher plant, some other plants also can take this insect as their that means food nutrition to fill up their nitrogen deficiency. Okay, so I will see it now. structures is this modified of this leaf, and the apex of this leaf form lid which can open and close to mouth and pitcher. Okay, so that means these are called what? These are called insectivorous plant. The mechanism is, that means how they take this nitrogen, is that there is an lid like structure, and this part is also another container like structure. Okay, so when this insect basically enter into this part, okay, let me erase it. When this insect is enter in that part, this lid, that means make completely covered on it, upper part of it. As a result, this insect cannot uh, go out from it. And another, that means hormones or secret that means chemicals is released from this inside part of that container, and this that means insect is completely consumed or absorbed by this structure. Okay, so through this way they can fill up their nitrogen deficiency by taking this insect. Okay, so that's why these are called what? These are called uh, insectivorous plant. They can also ask you give another example, so you can write sundew. Okay, sundew is also another plant which can take insect as their nutritional part. Okay, so sundew, pitcher plant, etc. Now another things is saprotrophs. Okay, so what is saprotrophs? Saprotroph is a process through which sometimes or different, you can see different plants can generally grow in this decaying part, and some wet area where basically water is in store, and the rotten part is there, so they can make their food, that means take their nutrition from these decaying substances or part. So this kind of nutrition is called saprotrophic mode of nutrition. That means the nutrition on which or through which plants can take their nutrition from the decaying or rotten part. Okay, so these are called saprotrophic. Different fungus, different fungus are generally do this activity, and as a result, the animals or plants which have died are completely mixed with the soil with the help of these things, and after rotting and decaying, they can take their nutrition also from it. Okay, so this kind of nutrition is called saprotrophic mode of nutrition, and those that means fungus or something else are doing these things are called the saprotrophs. Okay, these are called what? Saprotrophs. Another activity is there, you have to that means write this, read this activity, what they have written there. Take a piece of the bread and moistens it with water, leaves it in a moist warm places in 2 to 3 days. That means this activity is given there for showing this fungus how they generally grow in decaying part. If you take this a piece of this bread and water it, then some days 2 or 3 days later you will see that some fungus is growing there. So I can conclude that this fungus have take their nutrition from this decaying bread. Okay, so this things is for this saprotrophics. Yes, some fungi is there. These organisms are called the fungi. I already told you. Yes, saprotrophic nutrition, I already told you. The mode of nutrition in which organisms take nutrients in solution form from dead and decaying matters is called the saprotrophic mode of nutrition. Okay, plants which use this saprotrophic mode of nutrition are called saprotrophs. I have already told you. Okay, so you have to write two questions here. What is saprotrophic nutrition and what is saprotrophs? Okay, so this part have finished. Here another things is this symbiotic relationship. Now, during this rainy season, these spoil may things, ask your parents and maize to fungi in your house. Now the fungal spores are generally present in the air. When the land and wet warm things get germinated and grow, now can you figure out how we can protect our things from this getting spoiled. Not very important, you can read here. Symbiotic relationship is very important. Symbiotic relationships is one kind of relationship where both, that means host or staying animals or plants, are living together by making a relationship. This relationship is called the symbiotic relationship. See, some organisms live together and share shelters and nutrients. This is called the symbiotic relationship. Okay, so very important questions you can write. What is symbiotic relationship? Okay, in that case, two living things, suppose it's an host living plants, and suppose here is another living plants which is staying on this host. They can share their nutritions, or sometimes positions or shelter also. So this kind of relationship, that means together staying relationship, is called what? Symbiotic relationship. So please make questions from here. What is symbiotic relationship, and give example of it also. So example is, certain fungi lives in the roots of this tree. You can see that different fungi, green fungi or some other green, not fungi has not green color basically, white fungi, you can see is present on the stem of a plants in this lower part. From here they can take this relation, that means nutrition. So this is called the symbiotic relationship. Okay, so you should learn it. See, in organisms called this lichen, a chlorophyll containing plant partner, which is an alga, a fungus, live together. Okay, so what is lichen? Question can come. Lichens is also a chlorophyll containing partners, which is an algae. That means one kind of algae which is called this lichen, and it have generally chlorophyll, and they can make their own food also. Okay, so these things is very important. What is lichen? Okay, so what kind of it is? You should take this question from here. Fungus provide the shelters and water and minerals to this alga, and in returns the alga provide food in which it present by the photosynthesis. Okay, so this is one kind of symbiotic relationship between this fungus even and alga. Okay, so you can take this example also. Now, how nutrients are replenished in the soil? That means suppose an animal have taken this food from this plants, and after taking it these animals have died. Okay, suppose, and after that, that means happened, this animal's body is completely decayed, so rottens into and mixed completely into soils. So through this way the nutrients are generally converted. Now here questions is, how nutrients are replenished in this soil? Have you seen these farmers spreading manures and fertilizers in this field, or gardeners using them in lawn or this pot? Do you have seen? Different questions is given there. Uh, that means they generally want to make us understand that how is nutrient basically replenished in soil. So if you see farming, that means land, you will see that farmers generally add different manure or fertilizer into this soil. Why? Because the crops that already yielded have taken this nutrition from these soils, and for that reason there is a shortage of nutrients in this soil. Okay, so we have to what give this additional nutrition in the soil, so that the plants which will that means grow in the next part, that means time, can take their nutritions. Okay, so for that reason we have to add these things. But how it is occurred? So some of these organelles also help, which are that means called this friends of the farmer, like earthworm, redworm, etc. Okay, earthworm, so redworm. Okay, so you can give or write these two example also. Okay, so see how it is occurred. You learn that the plants absorb these minerals, nutrients from the soil, so their amount in this soil keep on this declining. Fertilizers and manures contain these plant nutrients such as this nitrogen, potassium, phosphorus, etc. These nitrogens nutrients need to be added 2 times in this rich soil. Okay, because if we add this nutrient into soil, they can uh, absorb and give the plants sufficient nutrition. So we can grow the plants and keep them healthy if we can fulfill these nutrients requirements of the plant. Okay, so that means all the nutrition which are necessary for these plants we have to give them with the help of adding manures or fertilizer. Soil basically absorb these things and send it to the plants roots through roots. Okay, so usually crops requires a lot of the nitrogens to make their protein. After harvest, this soils becomes deficient in this nitrogen. Okay, so this things is very important because after harvesting this soil do not have that means sufficient amount of nitrogens which are very helpful to grow the plant's body. So you learned that this through nitrogen gases is available in plant in this air. Plants cannot use it in this manner. That means we can see nitrogen is basically available in air, but plant cannot, that means take this nitrogen from the air directly, so they have to dependent on soil for taking these things. Okay, so different bacteria that I already told you, that rhizobium. Okay, rhizobium is very important, which basically helps to convert this gaseous nitrogen into uh, that means minerals as in soil. So plants generally take this soil from take this nitrogen from the soil. So these are called the nitrifying bacteria. Okay, so rhizobiums is called what? Nitrifying bacteria. Generally they can questions give an example of nitrifying bacteria. Okay, so these things is you can write. Okay, this bacteria basically present in the roots of bean. Okay, bean, gram, pea, moog, etc. That means pulses like plants, roots. Basically, these are available. So these are called what? Leguminous plant. These are called what? Leguminous plant. So in the roots of the leguminous plant, these rhizobiums bacteria are available, and they convert this gaseous nitrogen into the minerals in the that means soil, and plant basically take this nitrogen from the soil. Here, symbiotic relationship. This associations is great significance for this farmer. They do not need to add the nitrogen to fertilizer. Okay, so another thing is uh, some of the farmer you can see that without adding these minerals fertilizers into this soil, still they are growing crops. How it is possible? Because uh, if a farmers do not add this or minerals and other fertilizers, then some of this earthworms and redworms are present in the soil. They basically dig this soil. Okay, so like it, they basically make a hole on this soil and the upper part to a lower part, and as a result this different minerals has basically entered into this lower part of the soil layer, and different gaseous substances can also enter into this part, and this lower soils is also coming out in this upper part of it. So by this way this entire soils that means turn into a uh, soft and nutritious soils. As a result, plants can easily grow here. So as a result, that means different redworms and earthworms is also called the farmers of this friends of the farmer, as they helps to grow these crops properly. Okay, so these things is other modes of the nutrition: parasitic, saprotrophic. This already I have finished. Heterotrophic mode of nutrition means those nutritions on which basically they do not make their own food, and they have to dependent on the other producer or plants are called this heterotrophic mode of nutrition. For example, human beings do not make their own food, they have to depends on these plants. Okay, so in this case human beings is called this heterotrophic mode of nutrition, and plants nutrition is called the autotrophic mode of nutrition. Okay, so I'm sure you have that means understood it completely. So here through this way we have completed this entire chapters. Here I have discussed all these topics given here: autotrophic, chlorophyll, heterotrophic, host, insectivorous, nutrient, nutrition, parasite, photosynthesis, saprotrophic, and stomata. I have discussed this all these topics, so you have to see our both this video to get this entire discussions. Okay, so if you write in the comment section that sir we want to take this solution part of it also, then I will take another video to solve this questions exercise questions answer also. Okay, so you have to go through that means this entire discussions, so that you can make that means a complete notes from these chapters. Okay, so these things already discussed, so I am sure you have understand. Okay, so I will not take any time for discussing this exercise part on that chapters. Okay, so I hope you have understand it, and if you have liked it, please don't uh, forget to share this video with your friends, and don't forget to like our video also. Okay, so I will invite all of you to see our next video, and through this way I will continue this all this chapter from class 6 to class 10, and after class 11 and 12 also by taking another teacher, but it can take sometimes also. Okay, so please stay with us and subscribe our channels and hit the bell icon to get all these things with free of cost. I'll not demand any kind of money from it. Okay, so stay with us.